Mother's Day can bring up a lot of emotions, especially for women whose kids are grown and out of the house. For many, it's a time of transition and even an opportunity to start dating again. Joining us to talk about navigating this is our dating expert and friend, Kimmy Seltzer.
Yay, Kimmy!
We're so glad to see you.
Yeah.
You bared the snow to be here with us.
No, and she does every time. There's some sort of like a weather.
So powerful.
She brings the weather impact alert with her. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin with the transition. When you said that I felt for a lot of women going through this, what is that transition like and why is it so difficult for women?
Well, I love this topic because it's near and dear to me. I have, grown kids who has flown the coop. And, it's interesting because your identity gets wrapped up in being a parent, being a caregiver, a planner, and that's a lot of like doing energy. And so if you find yourself dating later in life or in the second act, after the kids have gone away, you start asking yourself, well, who are you beyond being a mom? And that can be really tough. But a lot of people think that it's an end of an era, a chapter. And yes, while it is, it's also a beginning to reinvention.
Where do you begin, right? Begin again. Where do you start? What are little simple things you can do to get going?
Well, it's getting to know yourself, and who you are beyond the mom. And, a lot of people don't think about this, but when you're in mom energy, you're actually in masculine energy. And so I always tell women, well, because you're planning, you're doing, you're producing, you're fixing. And that's, really feminine energy. And that's what I always tell people to tap back into is a leaning back, it's a slowing down, it's a sensuality. It's also getting your sexy back because, it's hard to feel sexy as a mom sometimes. So dressing the part is definitely something that I think help women feel more feminine, getting new clothes, getting a makeover, but also just getting out of the house and finding other single people to relate to, connect with. Don't put pressure on yourself to go out and find the next boyfriend. Really just get reacquainted with the male species, as I call it. Because it's been a while. You might be rusty and dusty.
Yep. Okay, so good advice on getting your sexy back, getting out of the house. What mistakes should women avoid?
How long do we have?
Oh, I was going to say, that is a good question.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, again, because you're so used to being a mother, there's a lot of mothering energy that can happen when you're on dates, and that's not sexy. Okay. And so maybe also if you are dating later in life, a lot of people have only had 1 or 2 long-term relationships. They never dated just for the sake of dating without getting attached to the idea of a boyfriend. So they'll go in too much, too soon, too fast, too relationship-y. So they don't know how to just kind of get to know the person and have fun and pace themselves. So that's another big one. Another one is that they might start planning the date. They're the planners,
Alex.
Absolutely not.
That's good, that one. Alex
Let the man do it.
That's right. What about getting into online dating for the first time, especially in this second act of dating? It's scary as a young person, let alone not knowing how to navigate the space.
Oh yeah, I mean, learning modern dating is crucial. That's why I always say dating is a skill. And if you've never done it, you gotta learn it. And that is part of the equation. Online dating is the Wild Wild West, and it's part of your dating portfolio. It's not the end all be all, but to get used to what that's like, even how to flirt on texting, that's a crucial skill to know how to do. What is your body language saying? Also just the rules. Modern dating rules are different than, maybe when you were in your 20s. We didn't have all these apps and fast-moving kind of situationships, so to speak. Right?
Ask her your question because I thought it was a really interesting
question. I'm just curious.
Before we go.
Well, because you always talk about color, so that's seared in our brain.
Yep.
Red, pink, that vibrant color that attracts men. But on first dates, do you say no pants? Should you always be in a skirt or a dress, or does that matter?
Well, we were talking about femininity and we're talking about receiving. And if you're someone who always wears pants and sweats, then do something different that puts you in that feminine energy. So a dress is a great idea. I never had a man come back from a date and say, she was really nice, but she was wearing a dress. She was dressed to impress. When in doubt, shout yourself out.
Okay, yeah. Well, Kimmy, you always have such good information. Thank you so much for being here despite the storm, all the way from Los Angeles. We appreciate you. And you can learn more tips from Kimmy at kimmyseltzer.com.
Thanks,
you, Kim.
ladies.